Hello! Welcome back to Heavy Wiseness for Horrors. Today, we are going to be talking about my newly released book, Love Avenging Tony. Any thoughts on Love Avenging Tony? My special guest, Lulu, is here.
I got my own microphone.
Oh, right.
I think it's like the most perfect thing ever.
Alright, so...
Why are you already sweating, bro?
Fine,
Like
yeah.
2 seconds.
So, I released this book not too long ago, Love Avenging Tony, available on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle formats. And today I decided I'm going to do a little talk about my newly released book, my first released book. We have also special guest
Yeah.
Michael Jackson wanted into.
This one's mine, this one's his.
So on the screen, I'm going to give you a little presentation where I talk about some of the details of my book. So first, I would like to read a little bit of I guess you could say a plot synopsis. I don't want to give away too much, just a little bit of a description. So, by day, Tony Morgan, main character. By day, Tony Morgan is a quiet records clerk in Maryville, Tennessee. By night, he's something far more dangerous. A man on a mission to punish anyone who betrays, abuses, or takes love for granted. Haunted by a love he lost in a past full of betrayal, Tony delivers his own brand of brutal justice. But as his obsession grows, the line between right and wrong disappears completely. Love Avenging Tony is a dark, gripping horror romance about devotion pushed to its most terrifying extreme. If you like stories where love and violence collide, this one will get under your skin. So here, on the left, is my own personal illustration of Antonio Guerrero Morgan, the main character of the story. Also the title character, Tony's Antonio for short. So what's the main character and his psychology like? The main character, so the story is told from the first person point of view, and I did that purposefully so that we can get his point of view directly of his own psychology. So the book is very psychological. You explore his decisions and you get to judge them for yourself as they happen. So his psychology is very dark, as you probably understand already from the plot synopsis. His psychology is very twisted in the way that he takes this unfortunately ordinary tragedy, like losing someone that's going to happen to practically everybody at some point, and he uses it as a reasoning to hurt others. How did I come up with Love Avenging Tony? Did I ever tell you how I came up with the character?
I don't think the character directly knows the story.
Like the movie that I saw a YouTube short about? I don't think I told you. So, I came up with him because, I'll get into that in a second for the next 2 questions, but I never really finished a novel before, but I always wanted to write stories. I've always written stories, but this is my first completed and published one. And I really wanted my first official story to be about a serial killer, because I really like this show Dexter, and I just like that psychology of somebody who justifies himself the way Dexter did. I didn't want to copy it, so I just let it come naturally. So for the next 2 questions, for the next question, any specific inspiration, I will like to go to a slide right here, behind the story of Love Avenging Tony. I wrote this out, and I'm going to read it to you. Well, how the hell did Love Avenging Tony, my first novel, come to be? We go back to the beginning. It had to be mid to late 2025 when I asked my dad to watch Dexter Resurrection with him. I tried to watch the original series beforehand. You were there, where we put on the first episode, but we didn't really get into it right away. And I usually watch stuff better when I'm with somebody else. So I watched Dexter Resurrection season 1 with my dad, and it was immediately like one of my favorite shows. So I went back, watched the spin-offs, watched the original series, And I just thought the concept was so unique. And like I said before, I wanted to write something similar. So I decided to try that. So one morning I was sitting on my chair about to watch, I was about to work out actually, and I saw this YouTube short about a movie called Bridge to Terabithia. Big spoiler alert here. The main character, the love interest, I guess you can say, or I guess she was one of the main characters actually, dies. You've heard of it, right?
Well, now you saying that again, I think I do remember you, like, talking about that.
Yeah. I saw that, and I really was captured by the idea that this kid's best friend, this girl, I don't know if I could actually call her a love interest, they were like 12, but she dies, and it's like he loses the one anchor he had. And I wondered, what's the worst case scenario that could happen to a person like that after going through that grief? And the one thought that came to mind, what if he let the grief make him spiral? And the only way he could cope was to hurt others. And thus the idea of Antonio Morgan was born. Of course, there was a lot of changes after that, but that is 100% accurate to where it began. I literally watched that YouTube short, that idea popped to my hand, and I immediately popped in my head, and I immediately opened a note on my phone and typed that down. Now for the last question about the main character, what's left to tell for him? This is going to be the first time that I announce this publicly, but I do have 4 sequels planned for this novel. I will do novels in between the sequels. I am currently writing one, also the first time saying that. That is a separate standalone novel, but this is going to be my main series that I focus on at the beginning of my, I guess if you say my writing journey. I do have 4 sequels planned. So what's left to tell for him? A lot. There is still 4 novels left that I want to write for the series, and the ending is already somewhat planned. So this is this little thing I learned from a friend. Just so you can get a more accurate depiction of where the main character's psychology is, to see if you really like this kind of character, if you'd really like to read about a certain character like this. And this is the moral scale. So it depicts this character in a way of how chaotic or morally good or evil are they. And one of the best ways to do this is through this scale that I was shown by somebody, and I decided I'll take it and I'll run with it. I like this idea. So here we have chaotic, neutral, lawful, good, neutral, evil. So where is he morally? Is he chaotic, or does he stick to a code? I would place Tony Morgan in this right here, to where he is lawful in the way, not that he follows the governmental law or country law or whatever you call it, but he's lawful in the way that he follows his own code, which I'm not going to talk about much in the video. I'll let you read that in the story. But he's evil in the way that his code can make him do bad things. So he's a character that follows a, I guess you could say, non-morally good code. So that's why he's in the lawful evil section. Here's one review I got. I am waiting on more, but I'm going to read this here. This is from Kimberly, somebody who I know. And she read the book and gave an honest review. Of course, I wanted to be honest. She said, a suspenseful horror story that encapsulates gruesome gore with unexpected dark humor, with obsessive romance while keeping the reader guessing from start to finish. So that's my, I would have read more, but I don't have any yet. There will be more coming in, obviously. The next section of this video, now that I gave you a brief overview of the book, is I'm going to actually read the first chapter. We'll get to that soon. Alright, we're doing the chapter 1 preview reading of Avenging Tony, by me, of course. It was dark, so very dark. When I first began following my God-given purpose, I was surprised at how easy I fell into it. Maybe God himself was finally giving me some sort of upper hand. Or maybe I was really meant to be a hunter. It was nighttime. I was parked in a perfect black spot beneath a tree in this trailer park neighborhood, shaded from the moonlight. The lights were off. I sat in the driver's seat, observing the Burns home. A few days ago, the lady of the home, Josie, came to me. I work as a municipal records clerk in a pretty little building here in Maryville, Tennessee. Flags of people come in, hand in records, and I stash them away in the back. But Josie seemed off. Not long ago, possibly a few years ago, I got records of her name on them. She was marrying Jackson Burns. She seemed happy, but not as she's turning in divorce papers. She wasn't quite as smiley as she was then, nor was she making eye contact. Her blonde hair was up, and she kept glancing at the door. I looked down at the records and opened them. I flipped through and noticed her specific letter. We had irreconcilable differences, it said. I've heard it before. The broad reason for divorcing her husband, on top of the paranoia, cheek bruises, and handshaking, only confirmed my suspicion. Jackson was abusing Josie. It seemed he shook the soul out of her. How ungrateful. Love is sacred, meant to be protected and cherished. This man earned himself a debt that I was willing to pay. I signed the records, stored them in the back, and went home to my apartment. I lived alone at a pretty little place by a beautiful blue lake. There was a man and his son fishing together in a canoe in the middle of the lake, and the sun was setting. Overall, a beautiful place to spend your life. My neighbor, an old African-American man named Darren Phillips, was sitting on a chair by the lakeside as I drove into the parking lot. He looked back and waved as I drove by. I waved back. Great to see some good men all around, whose hobbies likely don't include stalking humans like a lion spray, as mine did. I sat in my desk and took off my recording glasses. I removed the memory card from the side of them and inserted it into the computer. I paused the footage while I looked at the information page for the divorce records. I saw the photo of Jackson Von Burns, a bald white man with no facial hair, who appeared to be wearing coveralls. Removing him from this world didn't seem like it would affect anyone. Judging from his nasty mug, he didn't have much to offer the gene pool anyway. I looked down at the address section. He lived on Grove Street, Maryville, Tennessee, 37804. Bingo. I stalked him over the last few days. It appears he was living with his mother, whom, judging by her constant screams and cries, he was also abusing. And tonight, his time was finally up. I sat in my Jeep beneath a tree. I checked my watch, 7:13 p.m. I looked down at the small towel and bottle of chloroform in my hands. I opened the bottle and wet the towel with it, then wrapped it around my hand. I got out of the car, opened the door, and waited. I knew he'd be back soon after his daily hookup with some chick in an apartment complex not too far away. And soon, he showed up. He parked his red pickup truck in the driveway beside an old SUV. He got out, and I yelled at him. "Hey, brother," I said. He turned around. "Can I get a hand over here?" I waved him over, and he ran across the street to me. He stood beside me under the tree and shook my hand. "Hey, sorry to bother you," I said. "I was visiting my girlfriend, and my fucking car broke down." "No problem, sir," he said. "Let me take a look." He looked under the hood for a long moment. I could see the focus on his face and soon the confusion as well as he reached in and I checked a few things. I stood beside him. "I don't see an issue," he said. When he finished checking a few components, that's when I placed the rag soaked in chloroform over his mouth and nose. He tried his hardest to pry my hands off of his face, but my strength far surpassed his. Soon his body went limp and he fell unconscious to the ground. I dragged him into the backseat of my car and drove him through the cold night towards his demise. He was naked and strapped to a metal table on wheels by his chest, legs, and feet when he awoke. Poor guy. But by my standards, he earned it. I stood in the darkness as he squirmed and snapped his head around. We were in an abandoned factory of sorts in the woods near the Smoky Mountains. It was dusty and messy, with broken windows, bats, and a very useful, large brick furnace. He was right in front of it. "What the fuck?" he yelled when he noticed the furnace and its steel hatch, flames raging behind it. "Where the hell are you?" he yelled. I breached the darkness behind him and approached. He saw me. I can only describe his expression as a man's face when seeing a demon. "Who are you?" he asked. His anger and confidence were suddenly absent. "You can call me Tony Morgan," I said, "but this little occasion of ours isn't really about me. It's about you." I sat on my chair, the only clean thing in this dark place beside the spot illuminated by the flames in the furnace. "You beat your wife, Josie, don't you?" I asked. "Be honest. That's quite literally your last chance to." "Fuck you," he yelled. "Did that bitch put you up to this?" His rage was gross, nasty, calling an innocent woman a bitch. The sexist hatred was so on the nose it was a little corny on his part. He was salivating and spraying spit with each screech-like word. I simply looked at him with grave disappointment. But what did I expect? Each of my victims was like this. Not one decided to truly change, even in their final moments. "You're not helping your case," I said, as I stood up and hovered over him. "You're a piece of shit, Jackson Burns. You beat your wife, and on top of that you cheated on her. No wonder she divorced you. You're a whore." "She got you to do this?" he asked. "What, are you fucking her or something?" His voice tinged with a subtle sense of jealousy. The irony, I thought. "No," I said. "As a matter of fact, she doesn't even know who I am." I could see the confusion spread on his face like a virus on a rampage. "Then why are you doing this?" he asked. I looked down at him and maintained eye contact. "For love," I said. "Ungrateful pricks like you seem to understand how wonderful true love is. You take it for granted." "What the fuck is wrong with you?" he asked. "Killing someone for love? What are you, some kind of fag?" I slapped him across his right cheek, shutting him up. What disgusting language, I thought. "Shh," I said. "See, I felt real love before. I've also had it taken away from me by evil fucks like you, and it burned like a motherfucker. Now I've dedicated my life to returning the favor." I'd be lying if I said his ball giggled and it escaped from me. I looked down on him and saw his confusion turn to fear. He was afraid, hyperventilating, with his eyes open so wide that it seemed they were bulging out. All I could think to myself was, did Josie look more or less scared than he while he beat her? That very thought made even the conditions necessary for guilt fade away. "What are you gonna do to me, man?" he asked. I walked over to the furnace and spun out, opened the hatch, unleashing a wave of heat and exposing the raging, hungry flames inside. I walked back and stood over his head. "I told you," I said, as I walked over and grabbed a small wooden mallet from the floor. "I'm gonna return the favor." He cried aloud and I broke his knees with the mallet. I could see tears pour from his eyes. I was happy. Now he had finally begun to understand how it felt to be the one receiving pain, rather than the one giving it. I walked over and smashed his shoulders till they were blood red. Now he had no chance of escape. I undid the straps, grabbed his arms, and forced him to sit up despite his resistance and cries of pain. I grabbed him by his shin. "Please," he cried out, "don't hurt me anymore." I maintained eye contact. "I'm gonna make you burn," I said before I squatted down, threw him onto my left shoulder, and used all of my strength to carry his limp, naked body towards the furnace. His legs were broken so that he couldn't swing them. His shoulders were broken so that he couldn't do anything with his arms. He just wept as I threw him into the furnace. He unleashed a high-pitched screech as the fire broke down his skin and melted it off. I quickly slammed the hatch shut and watched through the cracks as he was cooked alive. And soon he died, and I smiled. I was satisfied. I slept well that night, because love was avenged.